Hello and welcome to this conversation at Catch News. I'm here with former Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibal, and I'm discussing with him the uncertainty and unpredictability that has been introduced into US foreign policy by President Donald Trump. He's taken a series of executive orders which changes the way the US engages with the world. So, Mr. Sibal, let me begin by asking you, do you think Donald Trump has brought any uncertainty and unpredictability to US foreign policy?
Oh, terrible. I think he's reversed many of the basis of US foreign policy ever since 1945. He says he doesn't have much time for the UN. He thinks NATO is obsolete. He's not committed to European security the way US was traditionally. They supported the European formation of the European Union in a big way. Now he says that the European Union is also outlived its life. He supported Brexit, and he welcomes more Brexit. On China, he started questioning the one China policy. He's said that, or at least not he, but Tillerson said that they will stop access to the Chinese to the newly claimed islands in the South China Sea, which would be actually an act of war. He has rejected the TPP, and clearly the transatlantic partnership is also finished, and NAFTA. He's wanting a revision of the NAFTA, and he's building the wall. So in so many ways and on so many fronts, he's been very, very unpredictable and how should I say, determined to change the course of US foreign policy.
Now, withdrawing from the Trans-Pacific Partnership is one thing. Now, he has also said that he would renegotiate NAFTA, as you pointed out, with Mexico and Canada. But he has also said that there will be a complete moratorium on any multilateral trade agreement. So are we seeing the emergence of insular, inward-looking America, fortress America, as it were?
Absolutely, because he clearly believes in protectionism. He had threatened, and I think he will do something to impose the tariffs on the Chinese exports to the United States. He is targeting Japan also, and he has clearly said that America has suffered immense job losses, and parts of the country are devastated. The industry is finished because the United States has opened up its market to all these countries and suffered as a result, and he wants to build up a strong United States within protectionist walls, yes.
He also wants to construct a physical wall between Mexico and the United States, and says that Mexico will have to pay for it. And there was a proposal that there would be 20% extra import duty on Mexican goods to pay for the wall. And the Mexican president has already cancelled his visit to Washington, D.C. Now, my question to you is a wall between the US and Mexico the most practical way of stopping illegal immigration or the illegal drug trade, which Mr. Trump says he wants to stop? Or do you think it's purely a symbolic thing? Because he had said so during the campaign, so he has to build a wall of some kind.
Well, I think what you're saying is not wrong, that he's now compelled to do something. And statistics show actually that illegal migration from Mexico has dropped in recent times rather than increasing. And then there are large parts of the border which is a riverine border, the Rio Grande, so he can't build a wall there. The wall will be in the San Diego and that area, only portions will be built. And it's a surprising thing that he builds a wall, he wants to build a wall against Mexican people coming in, immigrants coming in, and he wants Mexico to pay. This is clearly strong-arming a weakened neighbor that we want to protect ourselves against you, but it is your responsibility to actually pay the cost for that. I think one can understand the undercurrents of tension that there would be in Mexico-US relations.
But they're evident. Now, let's talk about the Middle East. Since the US policies bear primary responsibility for the mess and the turmoil and the war that exists in large parts of Middle East. Now, President Trump has said that he will clamp down on refugee entry from Syria and 6 other Middle Eastern countries, a complete clampdown for 90 days. Now, besides Syria, the 6 other countries are Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Now, what does it do to people in this region who supported the US? What does it do to divided families where a part of the family is in America, and now airlines are refusing to fly Iranians and various other Arabs with green cards to America?
Yes, I think this is a problem. This would be a problem, but I don't think that worries Trump very much. He has alienated so many parts of the American society itself by taking positions which don't have a consensus behind them. So, to that extent, these human rights concerns are not that much on his mind, though he's made an exception for minorities who are religiously discriminated against, which means the Christian minorities and others who would be allowed to come into the United States. I think he has seen what the refugees have done to Europe. It's almost brought Europe to the brink, politically and economically, so he doesn't want the same thing there. Plus, of course, people around him and he himself, there are deep belief in Christianity and that sort of a thing. So there is that element also which is pushing this anti-Islamic agenda, apart from the real problem of terrorism.
And what do you think of Trump's intention to audit US funding of international organizations, including the United Nations? And he has said that he would cut US voluntary contributions by 40%. What would it mean for international organizations? Because the US pays 22% of the 5.4 billion core UN budget. But this is not voluntary, this is mandated and agreed to by the UN General Assembly. The voluntary contributions are to organizations such as UN Development Program, UNICEF, World Food Program, UN Population Fund. So are these the programs that will get affected by a cut in funds, or do you think he will also cut the budgetary contribution to the UN?
See, if he cuts the budgetary contribution to the UN, he will be emasculating the UN and lose a lot of political clout in the United Nations. So I don't think it will serve the larger purpose of Trump's presidency to alienate the United Nations as such. And the mandatory contributions being what they are, if they don't, then theoretically they can be denied a vote in the United Nations. Not that anybody will have the courage to prevent the United States from voting in the Security Council. Insofar as other non-voluntary contributions are concerned, yes, I think that could in some respects harm the interests of these organizations and the work of these organizations, but some other countries may pick up the tab, so it's not as if they are not waiting. They might fill up the gap because many of these organizations perform very useful social and other functions.
This new US ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, in her first press conference after presenting her credentials to the UN, has said that the US wants to overhaul the UN body, and that she warned US allies that if they do not support Washington, then she will take names and will respond. What kind of diplomatic threat is this?
No, I think this is silly if you ask me. This is not how you conduct diplomacy. And times have gone when the United States can muscle its way and do what it pleases. The thing would be that it will strengthen the adversaries of the United States as they see their adversaries, Russia, China, some European countries, African countries, Latin American countries, many other countries in Asia. So I don't know how he'll serve his purpose by not only strengthening the antagonism that many non-allies will feel towards this United States muscle flexing, but their own allies. It doesn't make any sense. It's an inexperience. But then I suppose she has to follow what she thinks is the mandate that has been given to her by the president.
Do you also think that US allies are worried that Trump is preparing to ease US sanctions on Russia? Although Trump has subsequently clarified that he's only in early stages of considering easing of sanctions against Russia?
There is a huge effort to prevent Trump from fulfilling his campaign promise of working together with Russia initially to fight Islamic terrorism, the ISIS, together. And then again, in the process, move towards normalization of relations. I think that is one very sensible thing that he had in view. And all those who are opposing him are Cold War leftovers and who are not reconciled to the fact that Russia is the only country left that can militarily defy the United States because of their huge, powerful nuclear forces. But otherwise, Russia is not a threat. But then, you see, Europe, the way for the United States and the previous administrations to dominate Europe was to build the Russian threat because that would justify NATO. But since he himself is not very much in favor of NATO, so it follows logically that he will want to improve relations with Russia. But those opposing him, to my mind, are really warmongers.
Okay, let's talk about our region. How radically different do you think Trump's policies will be towards South Asia compared to Obama administrations, in particular towards Afghanistan, Pakistan and India?
I think they may not be very different because I don't think that his steps to curb Islamic terror, and he named some countries from where they'll stop refugees and this and that. If you notice, Pakistan is not included, though surprisingly or unsurprisingly, most of the people involved in terrorist attacks in the United States have had a Pakistan connection. So excluding Pakistan just goes to show that there are still within the system those who would want to manage Pakistan rather than sanction Pakistan. And on H-1B visas, on economic issues, we'll have a rougher time with him, because if he can squeeze his partners the way he's doing and take such risks in diplomacy, with India, he would not be that sensitive to our concerns about our IT industry and imposing costs on it. I think we'll have a rough time.
And how do you see Trump's policy towards China shaping up?
I think he's made it very clear that he's going to pressure China. Some of the steps he has taken are remarkable, questioning one China policy and saying, yes, I know this is one China policy, but I don't have to be committed to it. And on South China Sea, as I mentioned, they've taken certain positions. He wants to impose strong tariffs on Chinese goods. Politically and geopolitically, frankly, from our point of view, this is good, because this will curb China's ambitions and all these geopolitical huge projects that they have, extending their power in the whole of Asia, and Asia for the Asians, all that theory, the concept that they have, that will be blunted.
But how do you see this in conjunction with Trump saying that Japan and South Korea will have to pay for the US security umbrella? So his Defense Secretary James Mattis is making his first official trip to South Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
Do you think it is to tell them they'll have to pay for things, or is it to reassure them that, look, don't worry, we're not going to let China extend its influence in this region?
No, actually, Japan is, I don't know about Korea as much, but Japan actually is paying a lot of money for stationing of US forces. And in any case, US forces have to be paid wherever they are stationed. And there are some people who are actually saying it costs the United States less to keep them in Japan and South Korea than to bring them home and pay for their maintenance and upkeep and salaries and everything else, because these countries are sharing part of the burden. So I don't know what the truth is, but it is another consequence, which is to push these countries to spend more on their own defense and therefore bolster their capacity to resist China, which again from our point of view is not a bad thing.
Okay. Lastly, how much time do you think it will take for US foreign policy to be reset? Because his first week in power has already created so much turmoil. So are we in for a long period of turmoil, 4 years? Or is it, do you think after 6 months or so we'll have a clearer picture?
No, I think we will have 4 years of turmoil because he's setting into motion processes which are just not going to end like that. There'll be consequences down the line. And then through this process, more problems will be raised and he'll have to address them. And if he continues down the path of confrontation and arm twisting and muscle flexing and exerting American power in this brutal manner, then he'll be forcing the international community to face more and more difficult issues. So I don't think this is going to go away.
All right. Thank you very much for talking to us, Mr. Sibal. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week.